There are moments in life when time doesn't just stop, it fractures, and you find yourself standing in the wreckage of everything you thought you knew about love, about destiny, about the whispers you believed were coming from something greater than yourself. This is one of those moments. You're watching someone you thought was written into your soul, someone whose energy you could feel across crowded rooms, someone whose laughter seemed to harmonize with frequencies only you could hear. And they're standing there, vulnerable and brave, pouring their heart out to the last person you ever expected. Your best friend. The one who knows your secrets, your fears, your late-night confessions about this very person. And now they're receiving the words you've been waiting to hear, the confession you rehearsed in your mind 1,000 times, except your name isn't anywhere in it. The universe, in all its mysterious wisdom, has just delivered a blow that makes you question everything you've ever believed about signs, about soul connections, about whether any of this was ever real or just a beautiful story you told yourself to make sense of the magnetic pull you felt. The energy in the room shifts, becomes dense, suffocating, as if the very air knows a sacred order has been disturbed. You stand there, invisible in your own story, watching the person you love choose someone else, and the pain doesn't arrive like you expected. It doesn't crash in like waves or stab like knives. It seeps in slowly, like ink spreading through water, staining everything it touches, every memory you shared, every moment you thought meant something, every glance you convinced yourself was different. This isn't just rejection. This is the death of a future you already lived in your mind. And the cruelest part? They have no idea. They're so focused on their own courage, their own vulnerability, their own truth, that they can't see yours breaking in real time just a few feet away. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you ever felt chosen by destiny only to watch destiny choose someone else, take a breath right now, place your hand on your heart, and acknowledge that what you're feeling is valid, that your soul's recognition of another soul wasn't wrong, but perhaps the timing, the lesson, the journey was different than you imagined. But here's where the story takes its first unexpected turn, where the universe begins to show its hand in ways that aren't immediately visible. Your best friend, standing there receiving this confession, isn't feeling what they're supposed to feel. There's no spark igniting, no recognition in their soul, no sudden clarity that this is right. Instead, there's confusion, discomfort, a spiritual awkwardness that transcends social politeness. They're looking at someone attractive, someone kind, someone who is clearly sincere, and yet every cell in their body is whispering the same truth. This isn't mine. This energy doesn't match mine. This gift has the wrong name on it. And in that moment, your friend becomes an unwilling participant in a cosmic lesson they didn't sign up for, holding feelings that weigh heavy precisely because they know, somewhere in the depths of their own intuition, that these feelings were meant for someone else. They see your face in their peripheral vision. They catch the way your energy has withdrawn, collapsed inward, and suddenly the entire situation takes on a different dimension. This isn't flattering. This is devastating. Not because they don't care about the person confessing, but because they can feel the wrongness of it. The way truth has a frequency that lies simply cannot match, no matter how sincere the delivery. Your friend's discomfort becomes a testament to something many people forget. You cannot force soul recognition. You cannot manufacture the kind of connection that exists between genuinely aligned beings. The heart knows. The soul knows. And no amount of logical compatibility, no amount of shared interests or convenient proximity can override what the deepest part of us recognizes as home. So your friend stands there, trying to find words that won't shatter the vulnerability being offered, trying to honor both the courage of the confession and the truth of their own lack of response. And in that impossible position, they become a mirror reflecting back what should have been obvious from the beginning. This confession was an attempt to outrun something, to choose safety over truth, to settle for available instead of waiting for inevitable. And maybe, just maybe, your friend's inability to reciprocate is the first domino falling in a sequence that will eventually lead everyone involved to where they actually belong. Recognize this pattern. If you've ever been the wrong person receiving the right words, or the right person watching the wrong delivery, the universe doesn't make mistakes, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Days pass, maybe weeks, and something inside your soulmate begins to shift in ways they can't quite name at first. It starts small. A song comes on that you introduce them to, and instead of just hearing music, they feel your absence like a physical presence. They catch themselves mid-sentence starting to text you before remembering the new distance between you. They notice how conversations with your friend feel like wearing clothes that don't quite fit, beautiful but somehow wrong. And the more they try to force comfort, the more obvious the discomfort becomes. This is where divine timing reveals its true nature, not in preventing mistakes, but in allowing them fully, completely. So the contrast becomes undeniable. Your soulmate starts replaying memories, seeing them now through a different lens, noticing details they missed because they were too busy running from their own fear, their own unworthiness, their own belief that they didn't deserve the depth of connection you offered. They remember how you looked at them, not with desperation or need, but with recognition, with a knowing that went beyond logic or reason. And they realize that in choosing your friend, they weren't choosing someone better. They were choosing someone safer, someone who wouldn't demand they step into full truth of who they could become. And that realization tastes like ash in their mouth, bitter and inescapable. They begin to see all the ways the universe tried to redirect them, the synchronicities they ignored, the gut feelings they overrode with logic, the dreams that showed them one path while they insisted on walking another. The signs were everywhere, written in a language they pretended not to understand because understanding would have required courage they weren't sure they possessed. Now, sitting in the aftermath of their choice, they're forced to confront what they actually wanted versus what they thought they should want. And the gap between those two realities creates a pain that no distraction can soothe. They thought confession was a hard part, but they're learning that living with the wrong confession is infinitely harder. Every moment with your friend, every attempt at building something that refuses to take root, becomes evidence of their own self-betrayal. And here's what most people don't tell you about divine timing. Sometimes the lesson isn't in having what you want. It's in experiencing what you don't want with such clarity that you can never lie to yourself again about what your soul actually needs. If you're feeling this awakening, this sudden knowing that you chose wrong, that you ran when you should have stayed, write these words where only you can see them. I see my truth now. Because awareness is always the first step toward redemption. But while your soulmate is unraveling in their realization, something far more powerful is happening in you, something they won't see until it's already complete. This is where the real magic begins, where pain stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you alchemize into pure power. The rejection that felt like an ending becomes a catalyst for your most profound transformation. You stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself with such fierce devotion that the entire frequency of your existence shifts. You begin to understand that being overlooked wasn't a reflection of your worth, but a redirection toward your purpose. Every tear you cry becomes water for seeds you didn't even know you were planting. Every night you survive when you weren't sure you could becomes evidence of a strength that doesn't need external validation to exist. You start moving differently through the world, not with the desperate energy of someone trying to prove their value, but with the quiet confidence of someone who has already decided their value is non-negotiable. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you. You stop giving energy to situations that don't reciprocate, and in that withdrawal of your light from places that don't appreciate it, you become luminous in ways you never were when you were chasing. This is a transformation they don't show in movies, the part of the story where the person who was left behind doesn't fall apart permanently, but instead falls into themselves so completely that they emerge as someone almost unrecognizable from who they were before. Your friends notice at first the way you hold yourself differently, the way you're no longer available for situations that diminish you, the way you speak about your future with certainty rather than hope. Then strangers notice it, drawn to whatever frequency you're now broadcasting, opportunities appearing that match your new vibration, connections forming with people who see you immediately for exactly who you are. And somewhere in this transformation, you realize that being chosen by the wrong person at the wrong time would have actually interrupted your becoming, would have kept you small and safe when you were meant to be expansive and wild. The universe didn't deny you love when your soulmate confessed to someone else. It denied you a love that would have required you to stay who you were instead of becoming who you're meant to be. This is a period of your life that will make sense only in retrospect, when you'll look back and thank every rejection that redirected you, every closed door that forced you to find a window, every person who couldn't see you because their lack of vision became the catalyst for you finally seeing yourself. Mark this moment right now as the beginning of something that cannot be stopped by anyone's confusion about your value. And then, as inevitably as seasons change, as predictably as dawn follows the darkest part of night, they return. Your soulmate shows up, maybe physically, maybe through a message that arrives at 3 a.m. when they can no longer ignore what their soul has been screaming. They come back different, humbled by their own mistakes, transformed by the emptiness of choosing wrong, carrying apologies and explanations and a vulnerability that's no longer performance but truth. They tell you they see it now, see what they were too afraid or too blind or too broken to see before. They explain how being with your friend taught them everything about what they don't want, which finally gave them clarity about what they do want. They confess that every moment away from you felt like living in the wrong timeline, like watching their own life from outside themselves, disconnected and distant from their own truth. They come back ready now, available now, clear now about what they should have been clear about from the beginning. And this is where the story could end, where the movies typically fade to black with reunion music and the promise of happily ever after. But this isn't a movie. This is your life. And the most important question isn't whether they come back. It's who you are when they do. Because while they were gone, while they were learning their lesson with someone else, you weren't frozen in time waiting for their return. You were building an entirely different existence, one that doesn't require their validation or their presence to be whole. You discover that the person you were when they left, the one who would have accepted anything just to be chosen, no longer exists. She's been replaced by someone who knows her worth isn't determined by who can see it, who understands that real love doesn't require you to audition or compete or convince, who has tasted her own power and will never again settle for breadcrumbs when she knows she's a whole feast. So when they return transformed and ready, they're met not with the desperate gratitude they might have expected, but with a question that hangs in the air between you. Who says I'm still available? Because the greatest plot twist in your story isn't whether your soulmate realizes their mistake. It's whether you still want them after you've realized your power. The universe works in mysterious ways, and sometimes the person who was meant for you has to lose you to find themselves. But more importantly, you have to lose them to find yourself. And now, both of you are standing at a new beginning. But the old rules don't apply anymore, because you're not the same person who was willing to be second choice, and they're not the same person who thought they could find what you offered somewhere safer. What happens next isn't written yet. That's the beauty and the terror of transformation. It doesn't just change you. It changes every relationship you'll ever have from this moment forward. But here's what I know to be true. Whether this story ends in reunion or release, you've already won by becoming someone who could never again lose themselves in loving someone else. And that victory, that reclamation of self, is worth more than any confession ever could be. But there's still one piece of this puzzle you need to understand, one final truth about soul connections and divine timing that will make everything make sense. And that truth, it's not what you think. It's not about whether they deserve a second chance, or whether you should guard your heart or open it again. It's about something far more profound that happens when two people who are genuinely meant for each other finally meet each other as their real selves, without masks, without fear, without the versions of themselves they thought they needed to be. There's a reason the universe orchestrated this exact sequence of events, this specific pain, this particular transformation. And when you understand why your soulmate had to confess to the wrong person first, everything about your journey will suddenly make perfect sense in a way that will take your breath away. But that's a revelation for another time, when you're ready to see the full picture of what's been unfolding in your life all along.